They act like you meant nothing because admitting the truth would shatter the version of themselves they have spent years constructing. The version that feels safer pretending not to care, safer staying detached, safer holding people at a distance so they never have to face the terrifying possibility of real emotional intimacy. The truth is that you did mean something, maybe more than they ever expected, more than they were prepared for, more than they were capable of handling. And instead of rising to meet that connection, they retreated into the one emotional strategy they know: acting indifferent. People who struggle with avoidance or emotional underdevelopment don't ignore you because you were unimportant. They ignore you because you became too important. You awakened feelings in them they don't have the internal tools to process. You stirred attachments they never learned how to manage. You made them feel seen in ways that made them feel exposed. And exposure to them feels dangerous, not intimate. So they pretend none of it mattered. They rewrite the story. They minimize you. They detach, shut down, pull back, become cold, distant, dismissive, even cruel. Not because you meant nothing, but because they are terrified by how much you did. When someone like this realizes their feelings are growing, they don't lean in. They run. Not because they want to lose you, but because the emotions you bring up inside them feel overwhelming, uncontrollable, and threatening to the emotional walls they built long before you. So they hide behind indifference. They convince themselves the connection wasn't real. They convince themselves it wasn't that deep. They convince themselves you didn't matter. Because for them, pretending they don't care is easier than confronting the truth that they cared and didn't know what to do with it. They retreat into emotional numbness because feeling the truth would require them to step into a version of themselves they have avoided their entire life. Their childhood taught them that closeness equals danger, that vulnerability equals loss, that needing someone equals weakness. So they learned the opposite. Stay detached, stay in control, stay unreachable. And then you arrived, and you disrupted everything. You made them feel warmth, connection, longing, curiosity, fear, hope, and panic all at once. You cracked open a part of them they didn't even know was still alive. So they shut it down as fast as they could. Not because of you, but because of themselves. You weren't too much. Your depth wasn't too intense. Your love wasn't too big. Their capacity was too small. Their emotional range was too narrow. Their courage was too fragile. Their wounds were too deep. And this is why they act like you meant nothing. Because admitting you meant everything would demand accountability, vulnerability, action, effort, growth. And they don't believe they can survive that level of emotional exposure. They would rather lose you than lose their emotional armor. And here is the part that hurts the most. They do feel something. They replay moments. They think about you at night. They wonder what you're doing. They feel a pull toward you that they keep trying to silence. But instead of facing that longing, they suffocate it. Instead of reaching for you, they retreat from you. Instead of admitting they cared, they convince themselves they didn't. This is avoidance in its purest form. Not the absence of feeling, but the war they create inside themselves to avoid feeling too much. They numb what they cannot handle. They push away what they want. They destroy what feels meaningful because meaning threatens their emotional survival system. And you, being the one with emotional depth, interpret their coldness as proof you didn't matter. But their coldness is not truth. It is defense. Their distance is not clarity. It is fear. Their indifference is not reality. It is protection. Their silence is not dismissal. It is overwhelm. Avoidants don't act like you meant nothing because you were nothing. They act that way because your presence stirred everything they have tried to bury. You were a mirror. You were a trigger. You were a reminder of what they want but don't feel capable of holding. And when someone feels incapable, they choose the path that feels safest, pretending none of it mattered. But the truth is simple. You mattered too much. You mattered in ways they couldn't process. You mattered in ways that threatened their emotional distance. You mattered in ways that made them feel things they didn't know how to manage. And instead of expanding to meet the connection, they shrank. They collapsed inward. They armored themselves in coldness. And you were left holding the emotional truth they ran away from. But here is the part that will heal you. Their inability to show love has nothing to do with your worthiness of receiving it. Their emotional limitations are not your identity. You did not fail. You did not imagine the connection. You did not misread everything. You simply loved someone who was unequipped to love you back. And when you understand that, their behavior stops feeling personal. You stop believing their silence means you were disposable. You stop believing their coldness means you meant nothing. You stop believing their detachment means there was nothing real between you. The truth is that people act indifferent when the truth inside them feels too dangerous to face. And you, your presence, your depth, your emotional honesty were far more powerful than they want you to believe. Their reaction says nothing about your value. It only reveals the size of their fear. And now that you understand that, breathe deeply and let this truth settle softly in your heart. Their inability to show that you mattered is not proof that you didn't. It is proof that you loved beyond their capacity. And someday, you will be met by someone whose capacity matches your heart. Until then, welcome back to this space. You're safe here.